Noble community, we gather here together with one another, with all humanity, and with all life on earth. We gather here together on the unceded lands of the Coosaw, Edisto, and Natchez people, and in the place where nearly half of all enslaved Africans first stepped onto American soil. We honor our land ancestors with our mindful awareness. We gather here together to deepen our solidity and renew our freshness through mindful sitting and walking, music and breathing, and speaking and listening. We affirm the capacity within ourselves and all persons of every race, gender, orientation, ability, and tradition to realize peace in ourselves and peace in the world. We are going to prepare for a seated meditation tonight. So please go ahead and assume your postures. We're going to go ahead and do the full 30-minute sit. I am going to offer some guidance tonight, and you will have heard this before from me. So you might be a little familiar already, but it's exercise 5.5 in Unshakeable, and it's essentially a body scan. So if you would like to opt out of that for any reason, you can go ahead and turn me off or just go ahead and tune me out. I invite you to follow your breath for a few beats here as we all kind of land and arrive. It might feel nourishing to kind of deepen your breath. Maybe take a couple of deep breaths as we settle in here. Joanne invites us to feel some appreciation for taking the time to do this. We're starting to bring our awareness to our body, sitting in the chair, if we're sitting in a chair. Perhaps we're on the ground. We're noticing our body and where it's making contact with the ground, chair, sofa. And we're noticing the weight of gravity at work. We're noticing where we feel the weight of gravity. And we're asking ourselves, does this weight seem pleasant? Unpleasant? Neutral? And it's important here that we just ask the question and wait to see if anything arises. The answer is not as important as asking the question. We're developing a mindset of curiosity. It's important to note that we do not want our attention to be hijacked by chronic aches and pains. We may respectfully acknowledge them and then return back to the exercise. It can be really challenging to look for pleasant and neutral sensations when we've spent so much of our life searching for the negative ones. Hyper-focusing on aches and pains can actually skew our perception of discomfort and dysregulate us rather than rebalance us. So we just bring our mindful awareness back to our body. In times of dysregulation, we can fall back on these pleasant or neutral feelings. Notice your feet. Notice where they make contact with the ground. Notice the temperature. If you're wearing socks or shoes, can you feel them? Are there any other sensations arising? Muscle tension? Joint sensations? Does the right foot feel like the left foot? We're exploring the foot right now, and we're getting curious about the sensations. Are these sensations pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Bring your awareness to your legs. Can you feel where they make contact with the ground or chair below you? Can you feel gravity? What about your clothing? Can you feel your clothing on your legs? What's the temperature? Does your right leg feel like your left leg? Are these feelings pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Moving your awareness to your pelvis. Can you feel where it makes contact with the chair or ground below you? Can you be curious about the sensations you're feeling around your pelvis? Are these sensations pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Bring your awareness to your back. Can you feel gravity at play? For a lot of people, the back can bring up a lot of sensations. Can you get curious about them? Remembering to steer clear of dwelling on chronic pains. Can you feel your clothing on your back? Is your back making contact with the chair? What's the temperature of the air around your back? Notice the effect on the rest of the body of tracking sensations. Have you noticed any global changes to the senses that you're receiving? Bring your mindful awareness to your stomach. Can you get curious about the sensations that are arising? Do they feel pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? And we're not to worry if there are parts of our body that we cannot feel. She reminds us that, like a toothache or a stomach ache, sometimes we only feel particular organs or parts of our body when something goes wrong. We're just noticing what we can notice. Is your stomach moving when you breathe? Is it pleasant? Neutral? Unpleasant? Move your awareness to your chest. What can you feel? Is there any muscle tension present? Can you feel your breath? Get curious about the sensations arising from your chest. Can you feel your ribs? Can you sense your heartbeat? Do these sensations feel pleasant, unpleasant, neutral? Bring your awareness to your arms and hands and fingers. Do you notice any muscle tension? Joint sensations? Can you feel where your clothing touches your arms? Or perhaps where your hands are resting on your legs, in your lap, or on the ground? Can you feel gravity? Can you get curious about the sensations in your arms and hands and fingers? Are they pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? What about your shoulders? Can you bring your awareness to your shoulders? What are you noticing? Gravity? Muscle tension? Can you feel your clothing touching your shoulders? Or the temperature of the air in the room? The sensations that arise from your shoulders, are they pleasant, unpleasant, neutral? We're more concerned with the question and less concerned with the answer. Notice how this exploration is affecting the body as a whole. Has anything changed since we first started? Bring your awareness to your neck. what sensations arise for you. Can you feel where they connect, where your neck connects with your shoulders? Or perhaps where it supports your head? What about the front of your neck, the throat? Does that feel differently than the back of your neck? Perhaps you notice the temperature of the air on your neck, or perhaps your hair touches your neck. Are these sensations pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? After the neck, we're going to bring our awareness to our heads. Can you get curious about the sensation arising on your head? There's eyes to think about, ears, your nose and your mouth. Perhaps there are a lot of sensations to take in now that we're looking. What about our tongue and our palate? What about our eyes and our eye sockets? Our cheeks? The tip of our nostrils? The air entering and exiting our nose? Scan the entire body. Bring a global awareness to your body. Notice the sensations that arise. Do the sensations now differ from the sensations at the beginning of this exercise? Have you noticed any changes since you began to bring mindful awareness to your body? Stay with the feeling of being in your body. Deepen your breath. Take deep, cleansing breaths with your awareness on your body. Maybe take a second to stretch it out a little bit, roll the shoulders, take that sip of water. The next portion of this program will be our traditional walking meditation. So the task tonight, if you so choose to accept, is to take the bits that we just practiced in a seated meditation and see if you can carry them through your walking meditation. We've always been instructed to notice our feet as they touch the earth. So we will continue to do so, and we will expand that awareness of body all the way up. And we'll use some of the prompts that Joanne has given us about noticing pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral sensations. So as you mindfully walk about, take note of what's happening head to toe. And the most important part is to be asking the questions of curiosity. We're not super concerned about the answers, and we are being mindful not to get too hung up on chronic pains. If walking meditation doesn't feel right for you tonight, go ahead and opt for some mindful stretching or something else that feels equally nourishing. You may go ahead and have a second sit if you'd like. We're going to be here for about 10 minutes. I hope you can't hear my little helpers. Well, I am very excited to be talking about this subject tonight. So I am covering in Unshakeable, like the second half of chapter 5, starts on page 137 for those following along. Awareness of body. So they say all research is me search. So my interest in the mind-body connection is so strong because I have gone a very, very long time disconnected. And once I learned about, I would say it's probably like 10 years ago, I kind of got a taste of what it might be to be embodied. I got really curious and I started to see a lot of positive changes in my life that stemmed just from reacquainting my mind with my body. And it was reading this book and Joanne's broaching of the resilience, topic that kind of connected some dots for me, going like, yeah, it is resilience that you're building when you reacquaint the mind with the body. And in today's age, it is so easy to walk around disembodied, kind of, from the neck up, to kind of be a floating head. And you think, oh no, I know my body. Like, I was sick 2 weeks ago. Like, that stunk. That was in my body, But the truth is, like when we first started to learn about meditation, and I don't know if anybody else had a similar experience, but I had never met my thoughts before. I'd been ruled by my thoughts my entire life, but I'd never had that sort of perspective to see my thoughts. And I think the body could be very similar to this. Sure, you're riding around in your body all day, but it's very easy to ignore. Speaking from personal experience, I have been stressed out for a long time. I think I kind of run high on the anxiety. I don't have anxiety per se, but that's I'm always a little cranked up. And I've gone a lot of my life not feeling stressed. Like if you would ask me, I don't feel stressed. Everything's fine. I'm fine. It's all okay. But my body would be a wreck. I can remember being in high school. It's like academically stressful because you're preparing for college. And I went to a high school that was really big and kind of prestigious. It was still public school, but we had like Ivy League kids. I actually moved from Florida, cross country from Florida to Texas in high school. And at 16, I think anybody could agree, that's just a tender age to leave behind an entire social group and then have to build a new one. But again, if you would have asked me at the time, I'm fine. I got this. It's okay. Meanwhile, in the background, my digestion is just atrocious. I get frequent migraines. I played a lot of sports and I was a lacrosse player. It's a lot of running. You wear cleats. I had all this low back pain. I had really bad shoulder pain. But again, I was just truly numbing this out. I mean, I had all this pain, but it felt kind of like it had just been dropped on me from the heavens. I really, it's probably a bit of a maturity thing too. I just wasn't super interested in cause and effect. And I probably could have sussed out some of the causes, but I had more important things going on, high school. So I I took this little internalization of stress and moved that with me to college. So socially, things really lightened up for me, had a great time, but I was enrolled in a program that required, I've got a BFA, so it's studio hours. All my time was spent in the studio. And all of my friends' times was spent in the studio. And so you're kind of just around this, I'm going to go ahead and say, toxic work culture. Because I know now in my wise old age that there's no such thing as a completed design project. It doesn't exist. There's just a due date. So, but when you're like in college, you don't know that. You think you're working towards perfection. And one day you're going to wake up 2 days before the deadline and go, it's done. But that never happens. You're always working until the last second because the job's never done. And I'm sure this is like that in many fields. So it just created this atmosphere of work around the clock, forget diet and exercise and all. Like you're really just in the studio drawing or mousing with your drawing on the computer or drawing by hand or whatever. My cousin is also she's a landscape architect, and in her studio, kids would bring dog beds to sleep under their desks. I mean, it's just not right. I have a memory of like my project was so big I had it splayed out on the floor, and I think I was drawing or something. No, it was a model. I'm like modeling, and I'm like, I wake up like, huh, what? Oh yeah, I'm gluing this, right? Yeah. So all to say, during college, because you can't get through something like that without blocking the messages your body is trying to send you. Nobody needs to be sleeping on the floor, gluing models, or whatever we were doing for like weeks on end. I mean, it really was just kind of obscene. And the only way you get through that is to not pay attention to the niggles. And then the niggles become screams, and you're kind of like, maybe there's ibuprofen for that. And then the screams just turn into like a cataclysmic event. So an illness, an injury, something like this. If you don't listen to your body will make you listen. And it makes you listening by breaking. So I can remember, well, I had a shoulder thing that was not great, and that tried to sideline me. But when that didn't work, right in my senior project, I actually probably still had a couple, maybe even 6 weeks left before this senior project was due, and that's sort of like a thesis. So you have all semester to work, and I was also trying to hold a job at the same time. It was an internship in my field, and this was right at the turn of economic recovery after the 2008 crash. So the fact that any of us were getting internships, and that would turn into a job for me, was a really, really big deal. And so we weren't going to jeopardize the work situation for the school situation, which is just meant, I don't know, just a lot of overworking. So I probably have 6 weeks or something left before my deadline, and I get the most hellacious case of monotonsillitis that just completely puts me in bed. But I'm still working through it. I mean, it takes me weeks. I am being punished, and it takes me weeks before I go to a doctor because I'm like, oh, sure, another couple days, I'll get over it. I've got this thing I'm working on. I don't have time to go to a doctor. And I go, and they're like, lady, you need to rest. I'm like, I will. So then I graduate. And again, because of this whole, the atmosphere being very much, oh, you have a job? Hold on to that. I don't take a break between graduation and going to work. It's not my first day of work because I've been working for these people and I just continue. It's a great firm. I'm excited to be there. But again, like that's a real, in retrospect, that's a real missed opportunity to like perhaps get some regulation back into my life. So I go straight in on Monday and I work at just neck-breaking speeds for 5 years before I finally go, I am too sick to continue at this pace. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And it truly, truly was a result of listening to my body again was screaming at me, like all of the migraines, the IBS, I had shoulder pains, all these things. They were there. I have one great example of, I woke up one morning. I'm kind of, I've got a lot of muscle tension. It kind of comes back to the scoliosis, whatever. But I woke up one morning and I couldn't move my head. And I just remember like my head, like the back of my head touching the pillow. And I just remember like tears streaming down. Like, and I was married at the time and I'm like, Benjamin, I can't move my head. Like I can't get up. I cannot move my head. This is bizarre. So he helps me up and this is my response. I book an emergency massage. I go to this massage. I get my ibuprofen. I go to work by lunch. I just like, that is like old Jessica. I do not know this person. Like, it's too much. It's just too much. And that person was completely disembodied. So I'm like getting the signs. And honestly, I'm deciding I want to make a lifestyle choice. I had in college experienced Iyengar yoga I'd always been practicing yoga kind of on the side here and there, but there was a studio in my college town that practiced Iyengar style yoga. And this form of yoga was very different than anything I had ever experienced before because it is not fast-paced flow yoga. It's more about getting into a posture and then holding it and kind of tweaking this posture towards Mr. Iyengar's idea of perfection. So all bodies are different. It would have to be your version of perfect. But it was a really interesting experience because, to be honest, I hadn't really been thinking about my body in that way. Say, get in a position and then you're like making these little micro adjustments, trying to fire certain muscles and hold certain shapes. And I thought, oh, this is what a shift, right? What a shift to the dysregulated system. And this teacher was brilliant, and she would end each class in a 15-minute long body scan, like a yoga nidra, sort of similar to what we just did, but more with the aim of relaxation. And this was in college when I was doing all those crazy studio hours. I would come out of there like literally drunk. Like it was such a shock to the system. I would like stumble into the parking lot like, what just happened to me in there? So of course I kept going back. I'm like, what is this? Like, what's going on in here? So I'd had that experience in college. And ever since I left that town, I'd been looking to replicate that. Like, what was that? And then all kind of on the side here, I am beginning to practice mindfulness, taking Buddhism more and more seriously, and starting this little precious baby meditation practice, which was so painful, like it was so hard. Just like being with your body is so hard. And so all of this was kind of coming together. And my husband and I looked at each other and we were like, we need a lifestyle change. And so we were in the privileged position to be able to do that. We didn't have a house yet or anything. I called up my aunt here in Summerville, South Carolina. She's got an interior design studio. And I said, do you ever see us working together? She said, get on out here. So we stopped work and we put everything in a backpack and we went to Europe. My husband's from Germany, so we had a home base there, and we traveled around Europe for like half the year, and my body started to normalize. And it was the freakiest feeling. I was like, is this what people feel like? Can you feel like this? Am I too relaxed? like, should I find something to stress about? Can we stress about this Airbnb accommodation? No? Okay. I'm feeling pretty good. And I moved to Somerville, and I seriously made a pact with myself. I will never do that again. I don't know what that was, the whole like dysregulated, I'm a walking stress ball situation, but it's not necessary. And I will also continue to develop this awareness of mind and body. So I joined Indigo Sangha. That was a huge boost to the practice. Yay! And then I've kept this yoga thing going in the background. Then more recently, I was introduced to that Kayut style, which I'm bringing in small doses to our session here. And it focuses precisely on this, the mind-body connection and regulating our nervous system by attuning into the sensations that arise in our body. So what I find really powerful about the mind-body connection is the more, just like the experience that I had when I was learning to meditate, the more I could be aware of the thoughts going through my head, kind of like the better decisions I could make. And I feel very similarly about bodily awareness. The more that I can pay attention to the sensations that arise in my body, the better decisions I can make. And not only that, but your brain and your body actually like to be connected. And this is what Joanne's talking about. There is actually a regulating factor at play here when we allow the mind to talk to the body and the body to talk to the mind. And I think that if I follow this rabbit trail more and more and more, I'm just going to learn more and more and more about how I can build a life that is happy and healthy, and how I can show up better for other people in my life. And it reminds me of, so COVID was crazy for everybody, all that stuff. I had a baby the day the pandemic was announced. So it was like, all that's like really mixed up for me. It was like this big maternity leave and like the world was on fire and all this stuff. So I was, like everybody else, was sitting at home alone. Well, not alone. There's the baby. But I had all this new time on my hands. And I had to, I'm talking now about what Joanne calls, I think she called them crutches. And these are like what we think are regulating habits that actually aren't helpful. And the pandemic and having a baby kind of gave me the space to think about the crutches in my life. And I don't think that I would have even noticed them had I not had the ability to kind of tune in. So the first is alcohol. I obviously stopped drinking when I was pregnant. So I had the baby, and after a while you can introduce it back in. And I just didn't really need it or like it or want it. And I found that kind of interesting because I really liked alcohol. I come from a foodie family. We like our wine pairings. We like to talk about it. We like to brew beer. Like, it's just kind of a thing we enjoy sharing. So I was a little surprised when I would have a glass of wine with dinner, with the big family table. And then I'd be like, this just doesn't feel good. I don't like it. So then I would start skipping. And then I'm like, no, pass. I'm not feeling it. Baby, I'm just not feeling it. And then those kind of built up. Like I found myself passing more often than not. And the quality of my sleep, once I remembered the baby. So I don't know that my sleep is, better. You have to that's like a while later. They get older and then you're sleeping normal. And then you realize, then you have a drink and then you go, oh my gosh, that wrecked my sleep. One drink wrecked my sleep. I'm not living my life like that. Like I like to wake up feeling fresh. So, but I didn't quit drinking. I had the occasional drink. Again, I enjoy it. Until I got pregnant with my son and I had him. I could introduce drinking back into my life. And this time I probably had one or two and then I was like, nope, not feeling it. It is not for me. My body feels better when I do not drink. That is my personal decision for my body. That's how I feel. And just based on how my body feels, like I don't even miss it. I'm telling you, old Jessica would have been shocked. old Jessica worked really hard and played really hard because that's kind of, let me tell you about toxic work culture. The design industry is rough. So, but another thing that I noticed was social media. I had that baby in the pandemic and I had a lot of sitting around to do because babies like to be held. And I found myself just, oh my God, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling on Instagram's my favorite. Thanks for asking. And it felt terrible. And I only knew it felt terrible because I could check in and see that. I really think old Jessica, she just would have been like, I don't know, but she would have loved Instagram and she would not have given it up for anything, even if it kind of made her feel a little crappy. Because remember, like she couldn't move her head and she still went to work. Like she would suffer through a little bit of discomfort just to get her social media fix. But new Jessica is like, no, I feel so much. My body feels better. Like I can feel the dysregulation happen if I spend 15 minutes scrolling, through the abyss that is Instagram. Like I can feel that. And the only reason I can feel that is because I have practiced developing that communication between my mind and body. Again, I used to not be able to at all. I think I've proven that. So I find it quite exotic to be able to notice what's going on. And like Joanne suggested in the book, the more that you can practice attunement with your body, the more you are able to tune into your body for an anchoring effect. And I can attest to that. Like, even as we've been going through this whole program, thinking about resources, I have a really hard time finding a resource that isn't body related. That's kind of the fastest way I can feel like I'm on the path towards regulation is just to like, boom, where are my feet? Like, can I feel the floor? What are my hands doing right now? And I can really come into my body in tense moments where in the past I was truly floating out. Like I was just neck up, like the stress would come and things can feel really scary when you're not able to tune in below. And so personally, I have experienced the power of kind of trying to develop this mind-body relationship. And I have found this whole study to be extremely helpful. In particular, if I got nothing else from this book, my absolute favorite thing is I think she calls it the window of tolerance, but there's one graphic where she calls it the comfort zone. That's easier for me to remember. And she's got that surrounded by the halo, the stretch zone. And then she's got that kind of like floating in the scary abyss of trauma. And that visual so that we are more resilient, because if we never stretch it, our comfort zone ends up teeny tiny, and our little stretch zone halo is around it, and everything is dysregulating. But if you can build up your comfort zone, and you do that by dipping into this stretch zone, and you can do that by hanging out with uncomfortable bodily sensations, then you can develop a larger comfort zone, and it will take more to throw you into dysregulation. It's kind of an exciting idea, and one that really resonates with me. So I don't know if tonight anybody feels like they might want to share perhaps something from the first seated meditation or the walking meditation. Was there anything surprising that came up for you related to bodily sensations and body awareness? If so, let us know. And I also need to just quick shout out. There are so many delicious things in this chapter that I did not talk about. And what's really cool is that she's given actual like Plum Village practices to deepen bodily awareness. And some of them, like walking meditation and eating meditation. But she called out Stopping the Sound of the Bell. That one too. But The Blooming of the Lotus is actually, I think, a small book that Thich Nhat Hanh wrote. And so I'm interested to look that one up. And she also said working meditation, which that's a good one. It's essentially just tuning into the body while you're going about your day, your daily tasks. And then, well, I'll talk about the second half of the chapter later. But if anybody would like to share anything that's come up for them tonight, kind of related to the body awareness, we would love to hear it.